Surface breaking up a little round the back of the course, but these senior women are now underway. It's going to be 4 long laps here of the Kings Park course. They'll start off on this rather flat section and then on towards the golf course, where there are quite a few challenges to negotiate. You can see Kate Avery with the headband, the England vest there out front and looking to make an impression early on. A previous winner of the British Athletics Cross Challenge. By the way, this is event 4 out of 5 of the series. And Avery, who over the years has been so strong and consistent in cross country, competed here last year for Great Britain, actually finished 9th overall on that occasion. Not her finest day, but she won overall last year, also in 2016. I wonder whether she can make it a hat-trick in 2020. We'll have to wait until Loughborough, the final round, to find out, but a good start so far.
Also leading in the leading group, we have Mary McLennan, probably the best of the Scots to line up here. Won here last year in the senior race, so has some good form over this terrain in Stirling. We have had 9 races already here this morning. That, combined with the rain that we've had overnight and throughout the morning, has really started to churn up this course. Over the golf course, it's a bit less muddy, but still we have those hills, we have the descents to contend with, and it's going to be those who can make an impact here on maybe those hills, or maybe the descents where there's an opportunity to kind of launch an attack, that they could really do something.
So just to look back at some of those behind, looks like Daniel Fegan of Northern Ireland has taken an early lead, a bit of a surprise there. This course has changed a little bit last year when it featured the Great Britain against USA against Europe Senior International, and we saw a fantastic battle between Great Britain's Charlotte Arter and Elena Burkhard, the German representing Europe on that occasion. Looks like Mary McLennan is chasing along with Kate Avery up the hill there. So this is the golf course section that I was mentioning a little earlier, and now a downhill part, that little piece of gravel. We're very thankful that just in front of shot to the left there's a huge stream that is built overnight with the rainfall, and thankfully the athletes won't be running in that today. But Fegan of Northern Ireland, there's McLennan with Avery taking a rather different route, and you can see how, whether you're on the left or the right, the terrain underfoot is a little bit different. But Fegan now being caught here, so investing that early energy that we've seen so many athletes do across the age group races that have already happened here, and that has tended to pay huge dividends for them, not able to be caught in extraordinary circumstances. Headley and Megan Keith in the under-17 and under-20 women's races, but we could see a different picture here with some real quality and experience among these seniors.
Yeah, I'd say this race is much more open. We have a lot of strength in depth, but actually we're missing a few athletes that may well have figured if they were to be on the start line, like Charlotte Arter, who's leading the Cross Challenge series on points overall. This is the 4th of 5 races in that series. There's also no Jessica Judd on the start line as well, so that maybe leaves it open for the likes of really any of the teams starting with an England vest on. That's Kate Avery, Danny Chatterton, Abby Dunley and Emily Hosker Thornhill. The Scots, Mary McLennan, who you can see up there as well, and also, as we've seen, Daniel Fegan from Northern Ireland too. We've also got one of the Welsh runners, Bronwyn Owen. That's no surprise to see her near the start here. The GB triathlete was the fastest Brit at the European Cross Country Championships. That's in the under-23 race, where she took 7th spot, so doing well. I'm only surprised not to see her teammate Jenny Nesbitt up alongside her too. That is a surprise. Jenny Nesbitt, who represented Wales at the Commonwealth Games, was 29th at the European Cross Country Championships, which were held in Lisbon only a short while ago. that was a race that saw a lot of climb, a lot of descent, quite a different style to the one we've got here in Kings Park in Stirling.
Yeah, so they're back now onto the playing field section, which is much, much flatter. So they're two different sections and two different parts of the course, very much so. And in this leading group, it's still Fegan of Northern Ireland, then McLennan. You've got those two England athletes. It's Abby Donnelly, who's alongside Kate Avery, and just in front of her, in fact, here as they will go on to the second lap in flax. So good start from McLennan and the Northern Irish woman Fegan. McLennan was talking about the excitement of the fact you have this fun course that you can really get stuck into and enjoy. And you mentioned, Catherine, that she won that Scottish inter-district race, which all of the age group athletes have been racing for. That was below the top seniors. That did include Kate Avery, but still McLennan was out front here, and she very much looks at home now in a Scottish vest on home soil and just sharing the lead. So perhaps for the first time all day, if you just joined us, this is perhaps the first time where we've seen the athletes out front really working together.
Yeah, they're working for their home nations teams. They're trying to maybe play a little bit more tactically, and as they get older, then I think tactics come into it a lot more. You're thinking about your strengths of your competitors, and it's a lot more of an even field, so you have to almost play slightly tactically in order to get an edge over somebody else. If you feel, you know, it's going to be better for you to run as hard as you can for the whole race, then that's
now opening for these leaders and indeed the English, Scotland and Welsh athletes. Just trying to maintain balance, aren't they?
Yeah, you can see the different tactics as they went round the corner. Bronwyn Owen really stepping it a little bit further out, and now maybe some of them you can see on the right trying to find a little bit firmer ground, maybe not feeling quite as confident. You have to be trying to use all your strength to get some sort of stability over this very uneven, well, not necessarily uneven, just not firm ground, slippery ground, to try and get some sort of grip that's enabling you to propel you forwards. But still nicely bunched, I think, at the beginning. It's still unclear, you know, who's going to be able to come out trumps after this race, at the end of this race, as they get to the end of the second lap.
What's the longest race of the day, indeed, with 8 kilometres. So, as you say, shaping up quite nicely thus far as we get a shot of those a little further back here.
And going back to what you were saying about the conditions, some runners absolutely love conditions like this. They relish the opportunity to, you know, properly get stuck into some really, really muddy running, and you feel after completing it, they've really achieved a great challenge, especially if they've got a good feeling going around the course. If they're feeling strong, if they're feeling confident, then it really can give you such a boost, as maybe this is a group of 3 starting to emerge, and with Mary McLennan just dropping off there.
She's certainly having to work hard to try and respond. I think you're quite right. We'll wait and see. Different camera shot, whether that one was just the lengthening or this one foreshortening, but you can see here Kate Avery and Donnelly is following her through 2:27, and Kate Avery, she's ditched the headband. We did wonder whether athletes would have a couple of extra layers, because it's not freezing cold despite the mud and the rain that we've seen has kind of stopped for the meantime, certainly, even if there's plenty standing water on the ground. Even that has been cleared and disseminated along the surface by earlier athletes as well. But I suppose wearing gloves or headband early in the race, once you start to get warmed up, you're more into that rhythm.
Yeah, and you can easily discard them if you're getting too warm. I wouldn't have expected any of these women to wear any extra sleeves or a thermal or anything like that. I think it's probably around about 10 degrees out on the course, which really is not cold at all for this time of the year. Pretty mild, in fact. So most of them choosing to just run in the vest and shorts.
So senior as well as under 23s in this race, and making it quite a large field, because you have the home nations, the seniors, you can see the England vests there, but also those representing north of England and the Midlands, as well as the senior Scottish inter-districts, and they are Scotland North, Scotland East and West in red, black and light blue respectively. You also have a Scottish students team and those entered by their clubs as well. And I think people seeing this as a great opportunity earlier in the year to get out there, open up your season, get stuck into some good cross-country running. And the fact that this event has continued in a different guise. Last year it was the Great Stirling Cross Country, an event that had previously had some fame in Edinburgh. We saw Laura Muir have a part of the mixed relay last year, winning that for Great Britain. International colleague Kate Avery out front. Abby Donnelly and Bronwyn Owen part of this leading trio. Back out towards this golf course section, uphill and then downhill, and Kate Avery trying to stay balanced and pick up the pace and use this as an opportunity to break away from the likes of McLennan and Chatterton her England teammate, and Fagan, who started off so well for Northern Ireland. But Donnelly very much matching her blow for blow at this stage.
And now it's those with the different skills, those who are going to be strong on the hills, who are able to take it now out. And as we've seen, as the kind of the race changes, the terrain changes, the leading group have been able to push on that little bit more. We think actually the Irish, or the Northern Irish athlete is Fionnuala Ross, not Danielle Fegan. We're not quite sure. She seems to be wearing the number of Fegan, but we think it might be Ross, which might explain why she's doing so well. She's the only one of the senior Irish team from the European Cross Country Championships to make it here to Stirling. She was 47th in that competition. This group of 3 up the hill on this 3rd lap out of 4. And now comes the turn of Bronwyn Owen to struggle to stay with those 2 English athletes, Avery and Donnelly, as they come towards the end of this golf course section. And back onto the level playing field where the conditions change back again to the more turns, the muddy section and some of the straight bits. McLennan there is next through in 4th place.
Well, we talk about it being an Olympic year, and that's the fact for Bronwyn Owen as a Great Britain triathlete as well. So it's all part of a different season narrative for the athletes that we see in front of us. Kate Avery, you know, one of her best career results came from the Commonwealth Games in 2014, 10,000 metres. 4th place for her, and she's had a number of injury issues over the last few years, but looking to get back to her best, and this would be a good start to the year for her. But there's sort of a wipe of the brow there, and a refocus on the task at hand here, with Donnelly and Owen right in behind.
Because rarely does cross-country feature as an athlete-only sport. They will often pair it with something else, whether that be track, whether that be road, whether that be middle or long distance, whether that be triathlon, whether that be orienteering, what we've said before. And therefore you can see each season and each year and each race, athletes putting different emphasis on the cross-country. So maybe some of those that we've seen in the UK, USA, Europe match are now, you know, not running that again. So they've placed different results, and some people now are warm weather training, preparing for trying to get selected for the Olympics, maybe doing half marathon work, maybe doing some indoor athletics season work, or trying to prepare for being an elite athlete in one of the other sports that they are a part of. So in a way that makes it hard for us to gauge how much effort and how much focus in their training the athletes have put on the cross-country work and on hills and on difficult conditions like this.
Well, I think Maureen McLennan was saying in preview with Scottish Athletics that it's a real boost for her to know that she started the year with international selection and can really enjoy this opportunity on what is quite a fun course. It's perhaps less fun compared to how it was last year because the conditions were slightly better, and it may not have been quite as she was used to because of the changes that have been made. As we look here once again, it's pretty much as you were at the end of this 3rd lap with Avery, Donnelly and then Owen.
I don't know, fun is a matter of perspective. I genuinely think some people will absolutely love the conditions here today. Some people will hate it. They will feel like they're fighting every single step as they feel like they're going backwards. But the conditions are the same for everybody, pretty much. You're going to try and find the same lines, you're going within the same tapes. And as they come to the end of this 3rd lap with one more to go, we can see, you know, that this trio have been able to successfully cope with these conditions and perform very, very well.
So those 3 very much in close attentions of one another. There is McLennan now. She's broken free of the rest. There is Chatterton. and we believe Ross as well. Aston dropping back a little bit. Looks like that might be 314 that we saw there. 314 Izzy Fry going through. Izzy Fry, another who's had a bit of a breakthrough year, the 19-year-old, now an under 23. She'll be 20 in May. So great for her to get this international experience, if you like. She was actually the first Brit at the European cross country in the junior race, as well as just missing out on the medal at the European under 20 competition in Borås in Sweden. I was there last year, and always at under 20 level you get athletes who you haven't perhaps seen make a big breakthrough before but do really well in international level, and by the same token you get those who have been quite consistent all year, and when it comes to that big race, maybe it's something they've been working towards all season, or maybe it's something that was an unexpected goal that ended up coming as a result of success at the trials, and it might just be that they don't perform as well on that particular day. But Izzy Fry was one who just missed out on a medal and looked particularly impressive. Her senior colleagues, though, this time in England vests, it's now Avery against Donnelly. They've dropped the triathlete Bronwyn Owen just there in the background, trying to respond and also visibly running faster, but so much concentration on the face of Kate Avery that we've consistently seen. She's just trying to maintain her balance and putting her arms out, watching where her feet are stepping. And we're at this part of the course now that is particularly tricky, downhill, then uphill, then a short break on a slightly more gravelly section. But you have to be impressed with the way that Abby Donnelly is just holding in behind Kate Avery, and I just wonder whether she's preparing herself for a move on the final lap.
Well, Abby Donnelly was the third fastest Brit at the European Cross Country Championships in Lisbon, finishing 13th, was therefore finished ahead of Kate Avery, who was in 30th position. So, you know, recent form of a very different course, but recentish form, then we know Donnelly had a very, very good performance there and was faster than Avery. So, as we're still on this fourth of 4 laps, there's still a lot more that could happen, but certainly these two well clear of Bronwyn Owen, the Welsh athlete now.
Yeah, well, in Liverpool, Sefton Park, which was effectively the trials for the European Cross Country Championships, Kate Avery was 3rd and Abby Donnelly was 5th, and the other athletes that are between them and above them aren't featured here today, Jess Judd, Charlotte Arter and Amy Griffiths. But it just shows you how perhaps they are quite closely matched on terms of form this cross-country season, and that is certainly the case here today. Just fighting really hard now. Another uphill section. Avery, the 28-year-old from Donnelly, who's 23. So lapping some of the runners further behind, getting encouragement from the supporters here in Stirling.
And that's really the last hill now as they go through these trees. This is a flat section, so the really hard part of the work, you can argue, is done. But now, maybe as this course changes, Avery and Donnelly wanting to try and suss the other one out, try and maybe do a little bit of a kick, and you've got to manage these corners well. That forces you to slow down and speed back up again, keep that kind of a good centre, a good balance, but still Avery just with a few metres now ahead of Donnelly. And I think you can see Avery just kind of getting her head down, really trying to, looks maybe a little bit more controlled, but it's very close between the two of them still on this final stage of this senior race.
I think for the first time there, as you rightly said, there's a few metres between them, and suddenly the expression of Abby Donnelly, from one waiting to try and pounce and make a move, is, can I do this? Can I manage this gap? It's a gap that's growing all the time between these two England colleagues in the white vests here, and Kate Avery, every time you think her feet are just beginning to slide a bit, she's in control, and in fact has been pretty much in control throughout this race here in Stirling. Those people who live in those houses surely have a fantastic view of the exploits of Kate Avery here. So just looking a bit further back, won the England vest there.
228 is Emily Hosker Thornhill.
Doesn't actually look like Emily Hosker Thornhill there, so it may have been a late substitution. There have been a few changes to the entries within the last couple of days. So Scottish Athletics banners out around the course. Very proud of the cross-country tradition here that sees the Great Stirling Castle Run also take place this weekend.
Now this is the final stages. I think the finish funnel is just to the right there, and the leading athletes will be going around the last few bends. Always a possibility for some drama going around those, especially in these conditions.
Yeah, and you can see you've got the mud on the left, you've got the puddles on the right of shots.
We're trying to spot our two leaders, and I think there we have the leader, Kate Avery, just coming around this final corner there. I think, and heading into the finish, and she's got a big lead over Abby Donnelly now, who's now just rounding the corner behind her. So coming up to the finish line now, we have the winner of the cross challenge race here today at the finish line.
Yeah, and Abby Donnelly in fact was looking over her shoulder. But here comes Donnelly following Kate Avery home, and Bronwyn Owen looks to be a distant third. Fantastic performance though, the experience shown by Kate Avery, and at one point we thought, as McLennan comes through, the first of the Scots there, a good performance from her. Yes, at one point we thought that Donnelly was just waiting to make that move, and she perhaps knows that it was always going to be tough to beat Kate Avery, but she gave it a really good go. As Ross and then Danny Chatterton finished points all the way down to 50th place. That looked like Claire Fagan of Ireland coming through, the under-23. They are also part of this race with the seniors.
Yeah, very impressive stuff from Kate Avery. She put herself in a really, really good position in that first group. Didn't panic too much when the Irish athlete went out quite hard at the beginning, and then kept in a very, very good position, just managed to keep chipping away at Abby Donnelly, who in the end didn't quite have the legs to match up to her teammate Avery. And pretty good Avery coming back. She was the 6th and last Brit in the European Cross Country Championships. I mean, 30th place is still very respectable, but will maybe have not enjoyed that race as much as she would have liked, maybe not got the result that she wanted to. So coming back from that to have some good results, backing it up after that first place in Milton Keynes, also in the cross challenges, just shows that, you know, she really is the real deal.
Yeah, I think due to the injury issues that she's had over the last few years, it has been difficult to sort of recover that consistency. And as we look a little further back, so those red vests, Scotland North, of course, the Scottish Inter-District title up for grabs, and it's great that this event has continued in the guise of being a home nations cross-country international. As Charlotte Green, the steeplechaser predominantly. We saw Georgia Mallia come through. That looks like Annabelle Simpson as well, part of the Scottish squad.
Yeah, and these runners will all be racing for position now, which get points for the cross challenge. They'll also be trying to make the top 6 in their district. For those district runners, that means they will count for the inter-district competition. There's also counts. We're also looking for points from the home nations, as well as the Celtic nations, which counts Ireland, Northern Ireland, Scotland, and Wales.
Now, one thing it does mean is that Kate Avery will better her overall score from the competition from the first 4 rounds, so she will have 2 victories, one in Milton Keynes and one here, and that compares to Charlotte Arter, who won in Cardiff and then was second in Liverpool, I believe. So that should mean that Avery will now lead Arter by 1 point, whereas coming into today it was Arter that had that 1 point advantage. So shaping up very nicely, and
hopefully we'll see them both in Loughborough for the final, where we can get them head-to-head. They've only gone head-to-head in Liverpool so far in this cross-challenge series of races, where it was actually Arter who was faster than Avery, but none of them won.
Yes, Jess Judd was the winner on that day.
So a big field here today for both senior races, in fact. The men's is just about to come now, as we see some of the rest of the senior women cross the line after their 8 kilometres of running. It will be 8 kilometres as well for the men. So equal distances here today in Kings Park. And now we can see some of the men starting to, well, finishing their warm-ups, getting ready, getting lined up. A big field here today. Who are we looking out for?
Well, from a Scottish perspective, it has to be Andy Butchert, the man from Dunblane, the same town, of course, as Andy and Jamie Murray. And he's just saying how excited he is